Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday. Apologies to everyone for missing last week. When friends or family need you, they need you. I do not do this for a living. It's just something that I love to share my thought process with all of you. And thankfully, it wasn't a week full of major must-cover things. There's a lot of things to talk about, especially on the National League side of things here. And where else could you start but with the Milwaukee Brewers? I tried to tell people at the beginning of the year because I was fooled by the Cubs last year as well, and the Cubs did get better. The Brewers just know how to win baseball games. They are a better run Cleveland in the NL Central. And if you don't believe me, look at their team. 9 games up on the Cubs right now at August 16th here. 13-game winning streak they're riding. And they're doing it with a catcher leading their team in plate appearances. William Contreras leads the team in plate appearances. And while William Contreras is one of the best catchers in baseball, while Christian Yelich 5-6 years ago was one of the best players in the NL, Jackson Chourio broke out as a rookie last year and is an exciting young player. You look at this lineup, it's not names that typically would excite you or scare you if you're the opposing team. But if you look, Contreras, 114 OPS plus this year. Hoskins, 116. Terang, 112 while playing platinum glove defense and stealing bases. Isaac Collins, rookie outfielder, 135. He's been climbing up the NL Rookie of the Year odds maker lists. Jackson Chourio, 119. Sal Frelick, who was my X factor for this team this season, 120 OPS plus. Christian Yelich, 131 OPS plus. And to even go further than that, Blake Perkins, 126 OPS plus. And Andrew Vaughn, since joining the Brewers, a 191 OPS plus. Really impressive stuff from their lineup. And then Freddie Peralta leads the league in wins. Quinn Priester has the best winning percentage of any starting pitcher in the National League. Jose Quintana, quality Q, is doing what he did last year for the New York Mets. A very good pitcher. Chad Patrick, another rookie, has been exciting. And Mizorowski, who's currently on the IL, has been dominant as well. They have multiple bullpen arms with an ERA under 3. Almost all of their starters are under a 4 ERA. They just know how to win baseball games. It's the typical Moneyball approach. You need to score more runs than the other team, get on base, put together good at bats, and you need to prevent the team from scoring as many runs as possible. Build a rotation, build a bullpen. It's been really exciting to watch this Brewers team, a team that I picked to win the division, which for 2 years in a row was an unpopular pick. I said, fool me once, Cubs, shame on me. Fool me twice, I will not get fooled again. And while the Cubs are projected to have over 90 wins, they're a good baseball team, the Brewers have the best record in baseball and do not look like they're slowing down. They are an absolute wagon. I tip my cap to them. And if you have a chance to watch Brewers baseball this season, whether they're live at a ballpark near you or on TV, I'd recommend doing so because, like I said, they're not household names, but just top to bottom, really, really good baseball being played in Milwaukee. Now, the NL West, we talked about the trade deadline and the Padres going crazy because they're in striking distance of the Dodgers. The Padres have overtaken the Dodgers in the NL West. They're currently tied, but they had overtaken them. They're currently tied at 69 and 53, which is still 8 games back from the Milwaukee Brewers, to put things into perspective of how great the Brewers have been. The Padres have went all in for this year because Michael King and Dylan Cease are both true rentals. They're free agents at the end of the year, and I don't think San Diego's going to be able to afford to keep both of them, let alone maybe even one of them. So they're going all in on this season. Mason Miller and their super pen, Ramon Laureano with a walk-off hit against my Red Sox. He's been the corner outfield bat they've been missing. O'Hearn mixing in there in the corner outfield, first base, DH. This team's really, really solid. The Dodgers, the World Series favorites. Shohei Ohtani's played pretty much the whole season. And they've struggled. And like I said, they still are right there in first place in a tough division. The Diamondbacks, even though they've sold, are a good team. The Giants, even though they sold, they're a good team. These are not bad baseball teams. The Rockies, we'll leave them alone. 89 losses so far here on August 16th. 36 games back. Ooh. The Dodgers and the Padres are really duking it out. The Padres are willing to sacrifice Leo DeVries, the potential future cornerstone asset on their roster, for the opportunity to go all in this season. Now, coming into the year, the Padres had some ownership kerfluffles, I guess is the best way to say it. They didn't sign any big free agent contracts. There was kind of a tug of war at the top for who's calling the shots. AJ Preller had his hands tied. Then at the trade deadline, they're in it. Ownership has been cleared up by now. Said, go get your guys. Do what you need to do. We're in striking distance. They hate the Dodgers. This is the best rivalry in baseball right now. Padres-Dodgers. We get to watch it this weekend. Must-watch TV. The NL West, what I thought was going to be a 3 or 4 team race, has turned into a clear 2-team race. And I'm really excited to see, not just this weekend, but down the stretch, the Baseball is Dead guys outlined that they have very similar strength of schedule, same amount of games against the Rockies and everything the whole rest of the way. So this is going to be a true dogfight down the stretch for which team ends up winning the division and getting that home field advantage in the wild card round, because I don't think either of these teams are likely to catch the Brewers' pace right now, let alone the Phillies, who are ahead of both of them. So they're not getting the bye, but winning the division gives you home field, and that is also a big leg up. Pete Alonso passed Darryl Strawberry for the all-time Mets home run leader. It was one of the things that I said during his free agency, was that I wish that he would have been able to break that, but he ended up passing it. He's extended past that now. 252 home runs was the record, which is very low. There's only 2 teams lower than 252, that being the Arizona Diamondbacks with Luis Gonzalez, 224, and Manny Machado, who has 187 or 188 and counting for the Padres. He passed that last year. The New York Mets almost lost Pete Alonso this offseason. And for him to come back on a team-friendly deal with options and to ball out to the level that he has this season is truly something commendable. He loves playing baseball with Mets across his chest. And I have to respect that. 28 home runs this year, 2.8 WAR, 123 hits, 269 average, which is well above his 251 career line. 63 runs scored, 30 doubles, 99 RBIs. He's closing in on 100 there already in here in August. And the strikeout numbers, while still high, are down. His on-base percentage, 352, is well above his career average of 341. And his slugging is still a little bit above his career average of 515 at 522. Good for a 148 OPS plus, which if it ended today would be the highest of his career. Obviously, there's still some time, but the best since his rookie season where he broke the rookie home run record. So he had the rookie home run record and now has the Mets franchise home run record. 4 straight All-Star appearances. He has that Rookie of the Year from that record-breaking season. Pete Alonso is a heck of a player, really fun to watch. And while the benchmark was relatively low, I'm glad that someone who loves New York Met baseball and wants to stay there, as opposed to Darryl Strawberry, who had left for multiple reasons, owns that spot in Mets lore, and I hope the Mets keep him longer term so that home run record can go up into the 300 plus range, because that's when it starts getting really respectable to me, that's the team's home run record. Now, here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, I'd like to throw it back down the third baseline to this date in baseball history, and today had an interesting stretch of options. Number one was in 1870. There was documented evidence of the curveball. August 16th, 1870, pitcher Fred Goldsmith demonstrated a public exhibition at the Capitol Line grounds in Brooklyn, New York, that the curveball is a real pitch and not an optical illusion. We're talking well over 150 years ago. People did not believe that pitches could move like that. There's some people watching baseball games today that still can't believe that some of these pitches can move the way they did. But in 1870, well before there was like digital cameras and digital video and cell phones in everyone's pocket, there was a public demonstration of the curveball to show that when you throw a ball, it's not just pretty close to a straight line, that it can have a drop without it being an optical illusion. So that alone is awesome to talk about. There were obviously some great performances by different players, Hall of Famers and not, throughout the years. Babe Ruth succumbed to throat cancer on this date in 1948. We lost the great Babe Ruth, who I've talked about on this show many, many times. There was a really fun story on this date. In 1986, Lloyd Moseby got tricked. He stole second, was faked out by Ozzie Guillen, thinking that there was a pop-up, so he ran back to first base. Guillen tried to throw him out at first base, ended up throwing the ball away, and Moseby ran back to second base. So he ran 270 feet to steal second base, but was actually ruled reaching second on a throwing error. So he did not get credit for a stolen base despite running 270 feet for the Blue Jays against the White Sox on this date in 1986. So that was really cool. The great Louis Tiant won his 200th game on this date. But something that's near and dear to my heart, on this date in 1954, the first issue of Sports Illustrated was available at newsstands. The inaugural cover of the new magazine featured a Mark Kaufman photo of Brave slugger Eddie Matthews, whose autograph is at the bottom of the scorecard, at bat with Giants catcher Wes Westrom behind the plate and umpire Augie Dontinelli calling balls and strikes in Milwaukee County Stadium. Now, this was a big deal for a few reasons. One, in 1954, this was very early into the careers of Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and Hank Aaron. So they didn't get put on the cover. But the fact that Eddie Matthews was chosen, despite the greatness that was still in the league of Stan Musial and Ted Williams, Jackie Robinson was still playing, Eddie Matthews was chosen. And if you haven't looked up Eddie Matthews' baseball reference page, I would strongly suggest it. While he was not a elite defender, he's arguably the greatest hitting third baseman ever. 96 career WAR, 2315 hits, 512 home runs, 271 career hitter. He was a 12-time All-Star. And upon this time in 1954, he was in the midst of the beginning of his prime. 1953, he had an 8-win season that ended up resulting in an MVP runner-up and an All-Star, his first All-Star appearance. The following season in 54, 7.7 WAR, and he had 5 other seasons with over 7 WAR as a third baseman. Drove in 1,453 runs in his career, scored 1,509 runs, a true forgotten great player who at the time was considered the big young star in the sport. Not Mantle, not Mays, not his teammate Hank Aaron, who was a rookie. Eddie Matthews was considered the big young star. And he got the cover of the first Sports Illustrated, which for many, many years ended up being arguably the most iconic magazine in the sports world. There was a ton of other ones, but it lasted decades. And there have been hundreds and hundreds of stars, Hall of Famers that have appeared on the cover of at least one Sports Illustrated. It went digital it went digital around the pandemic and ended up getting dissolved a few years ago, which was a very sad day for me. I have a handful of Sports Illustrated issues from throughout the years in my collection, and the number one issue with Eddie Matthews on the front has been kind of my grail for that aspect of magazines in my collection, Sports Illustrated and then some. Not just because it's the first one and there's a Hall of Fame baseball player on it. That part of the history is really cool. But inside of the issue, actually, there was sheets of cards. Now, these were not Topps card stock, but they were the 1954 Topps design. And there was many cards that were reprints, essentially, of the actual Topps card. And there were some cards that never were, including, and they would do them in black and white, including Mickey Mantle, who was a Bowman exclusive player in 1954. So that, if you could get it with the cards in it, is even more special. But the fact that that piece of baseball history and media history and card history all comes into play in this one issue that was starting to be distributed at newsstands on this date in 1954 is just something that really touched home with me when I was scrolling through all the events of today. Despite some bigger names, was the one that I had to highlight as the biggest one. And speaking of these milestones, these first ever, these different lines, I talked about that round number of 300 that I hope Pete Alonso can get the Mets record up to. To me, if you're looking at a Hall of Fame candidate, 300 is when I start saying like they hit for power as part of their case. 300 plus home runs. 500 has been that automatic milestone that everyone kind of looks at. I hope that it's reading my audio. I don't think it is. This sucks. So when you're talking milestones, 500 was that number, and the steroid era kind of blurred those lines because there's guys that hit 500, 600, 700 home runs that are not in the Hall of Fame, as like that automatic number was hit, but it doesn't mean what it once meant. In today's game, there are a handful of players that are in striking distance or on pace for 500 career home runs. Giancarlo Stanton being the closest. He's currently 70 home runs away. With his age and his injury history, he's going to be close. I saw Trevor Plouffe and Chris Rose talking about how if Giancarlo Stanton gets 500 home runs, could he still get blackballed by the Hall of Fame, even though he did it presumably clean, due to the lack of the rest of his counting stats? Is 500 home runs enough? It used to be. I think it would be presumed as it. I know Giancarlo Stanton's not going to hit the rule 2,000 hits. I know he doesn't have 60, 70 career WAR, like the big numbers people like to see, but well over 1,000 RBIs, 1,200 plus runs driven in. So he's gets to 500. To me, he's an easy Hall of Famer. If he falls short, I think that's where those counting stats could bite him. I think that's the real conversation is, can he get in the Hall of Fame if he doesn't hit 500 home runs? He can. I just think the path is extremely harder. There's a lot better players that also have an MVP in their pocket that are sub 2,000 hits and sub those big milestone home runs. Dale Murphy. So I love Stanton. Loved watching him play. I hope he stays healthy enough to get there. He's the closest currently, but I don't know if he has the best odds anymore as he did 3-4 years ago during this conversation. Now, outside of him, Mike Trout is approaching 400 career home runs. He is signed long enough where 500 should still be on the table. His injury history makes me also worry. Does he get there? Mike Trout, though, has a WAR pushing 90, has 3 MVPs instead of 1, is going to be close to 2,000 hits, probably exceed it based on his age. So Mike Trout, whether he gets to 500 career home runs or not, I think he'll be in the Hall of Fame. Then there's this really interesting group of 3 hitters, which goes back to Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso, Kyle Schwarber, and Matt Olson. You saw them all in the graphic. Pete Alonso, like I said, just hit 254. If he keeps up his current pace, he did start a little later than you'd like to see. Keeps up his current pace, he could get to 500 home runs. Pete Alonso, as a first baseman, I think is very unlikely to win an MVP, have that in his back pocket like Stanton does. And also, due to him being a first baseman and a poor defender at first at that, I think his WAR total is going to be very low. Stanton's is in the 40s from his prime seasons playing outfield, cannon arm. I don't think Alonso's going to get there, let alone to the gracious Club 38.8, the Harold Baines line. Alonso is probably going to be below the Baines line, if not right around it. I know he will not have a WAR ending in the 40s when it's all said and done. He needs to hit 500 home runs. He's not going to have the hardware. He's not going to have the analytical profile. 500 home runs is his real shot at the Hall of Fame. And that's the same thing with Schwarber. Schwarber, a little bit old, he came up a little younger, a little bit more home runs right now. He's over 300. DH only, the WAR total is really low. Schwarber gets on base a lot. His WAR is climbing slowly. He may get above the Baines line, but I wouldn't bet on it. He's another guy. He gets 500 home runs. He's in, and he's currently on pace to do so. Are both of those guys going to get there? History shows not likely. And the reason I group Matt Olson in with these guys is because Matt Olson, same age as Pete Alonso, right around the same amount of home runs. That 53 home run season in 2023 really helped his pace, but he's been a good power hitter since his days in Oakland. Matt Olson has a more interesting case because Matt Olson plays a Gold Glove level first base. If you look at WAR, Pete Alonso has 22.7 career WAR at age 30 He's turning 31 in December. So 22 WAR. Fine, but not, oh my goodness. Now, when you look at Matt Olson, because of the defense, along with the type of hitter he is, 37.9 WAR. He's going to cruise past the Baines line. He's probably going to end his career somewhere in the 50s, maybe even get to my number of 60, where you're really talking Hall of Fame. 278 homers at age 31. He turns 32 in March. So he's about a year older than Alonso. And he's up currently by about 22 home runs, 23 home runs. So Matt Olson, while he's also on pace for 500 homers, and no one really talks about him as a Hall of Fame candidate, because that's really the only way he's going to get there. He has 1,100 career hits. He's not going to hit 2,000 hits. But the WAR total and the type of player Olson was, if he falls short of 500 home runs and is somewhere in the 400s, Schwarber's somewhere in the 400s, and Alonso is somewhere in the 400s, let's say all three of them fall short, Olson is the only one that I think would get real Hall of Fame consideration, because the WAR is going to be higher. The total package is going to be higher. And I don't think anyone's talking about him that way. I've seen a lot of Hall of Fame talk about Schwarber this season with the great year he's having. Pete Alonso breaking the home run record has gotten that, can he, double his current total and get to 500 home runs and get in the Hall of Fame? Matt Olson's sitting at 278. He's on pace for another 20, 30 home run season. And the other thing about Matt Olson is he plays every day. Last 3 straight seasons, 162. All 162 he's played. He played 162 once in Oakland. He likes to be out there. So if you're out there every day and you have power and you play good defense, I think that's going to be respected a lot in the long run, even if he doesn't hit that nice round milestone of 500, where I don't think it becomes a conversation anymore. But I appreciate you guys sitting with me through the audio issues, listening to my TED Talk. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure that you like the video, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. If you're an audio only listener, leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And I'll see you guys next Solo Shot Saturday with more baseball content.